I am Hayden Kublalsing, and I'm going to be your chairperson for this evening's program. If my name sounds familiar, it's because I'm Judy's younger brother, much younger brother, I should say. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge everyone here, starting with our Honorable Chief Justice of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Justice Rani Budusing. Welcome. A warm welcome as well to our other honorable judges and magistrates in our midst, and of course, our many other guests. Some of you, Judy's friends, her colleagues, her family, my mother, Vilma, who's sitting there looking very cute. She's 89 now and will be 90 on November 22nd. Auntie Roma Sananan, who is not far behind in years. And everyone else who has taken the time to be present at this celebration this evening. For the launch of the book, You Are a Wonder of the Universe, Why the Heck Are You Dangling Off the Edge? A very, very good question indeed. A very special welcome to Reverend Joy Abdul, also known affectionately as Reverend Joy, who is well known to our family, as she is to many families, for her ecumenical and community work. I want to invite her to start off this evening with an invocation. Reverend Joy.
Can I invite you to please stand if you're able? Thank you so much. Please join me in a time of prayer. Give thanks with a grateful heart, and do not forget your Creator, who led you out of the wilderness and brought you to a place of safety. Creator and sustainer of life, the source of all wisdom and knowledge, the giver of truth, we come into your holy presence with thanksgiving as we celebrate with your daughter, our dear friend and sister, Judy Kublalsing Matthews, in this launching ceremony of her recent publication, You Are a Wonder of the Universe. Gracious God, you have given us minds with which to think, hearts with which to love, and lives with which to serve. But you have enriched our lives with the gift of words and language, to share stories and to express our life's experiences. We thank you for the inspiration and vision you have given Judy to visualize and publish this masterpiece with the support of her husband, her family, and very close friends and colleagues. God, may this publication touch many lives, especially persons who have faced and continue to face many personal wilderness experiences of pain, challenges, but persons who are earnestly seeking the principles of survival and the art of living. May this book motivate and create a sense of self-awareness to those who read and internalize every word with a sound realization of how much you love us, how much you care for us, despite all our frailties and weaknesses. Continue, Lord, to bless Judy. May you open her mind to greater understanding so she will share her gifts with others for many more years to come. As we now commend this wonderful celebration of love, of words, of a time of reflection. Bless all those who will speak, anoint them so that they will truly bless us as we commend this ceremony into your care and keeping for the sake of your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Abdul. And Reverend Abdul, of course, has been trained in good books, deep knowledge of good books. When I was asked to chair this evening's program, I thought of our author, Judy. Something I don't deliberately do, so I had to deliberately think of the author, Judy. Her lifestyle, her personality, her passions, career trajectory. What came to mind was one of my favorite periods in European history, the Renaissance period, of the 15th and 16th centuries. It was a period of cultural and intellectual rebirth where thinkers of the day placed no limits on themselves. Names like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci emerged as multifaceted talents. Painters, sculptors, architects, scientists, all rolled up into one. Like those Renaissance individuals, Judy's pendulum also swings very wide. As a child in primary school, she won the yearly recitation competitions, standing bravely in front of the entire school reciting The Daffodils by William Wordsworth and My Dog by Emily Lewis. I remember her clearly standing in this poised position, very stoic, and beating out everybody in primary school for years, year after year. Perhaps it was this early bravery that gave her the courage to stand in the courtroom as an attorney and proffer her arguments. I remember her as a student in Naprima Girls, where she would embroider her house colors into her blouse. All the girls had to do that. Hers were the neatest of all my 5 sisters who attended that school, done with great detail and precision. Perhaps it was this meticulousness that led to her eye for painting, Judy having hosted 3 separate exhibitions with the Fine Art Gallery, selling dozens of her art pieces publicly. I believe some of you here would have purchased, seeing some nodding. She has been a regular contributor as well as a newspaper columnist, and now today, an author. Artist, writer, attorney, and author. She is a Renaissance woman in many ways. Let's give our new author a congratulatory round of applause. Clifford Narayan Singh is the founder of one of the oldest publishing companies in the English-speaking Caribbean, Royals Publishing Company, and the publisher of this book. Clifford is himself an author of many books, including dozens of textbooks used in our Caribbean educational system, as well as the now well-known biographical works on Sultan Gavaskar, Sachin Tendulkar, and Brian Lara. I invite Clifford to say a few words on behalf of Royals Publishing Company.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are trying for the survival of the love of letters amidst the people who are too busy for letters anymore. This was Ralph Waldo Emerson in 1837 in his address to Cambridge University. Later on, in 1922, T.S. Eliot in The Waste Land, very poetic, critical statement. We who are living are now dying with a little patience, writing of the diminishing of the creative spirit of the unwholesome life. But your presence here is an indication that there's some hope for our civilization. In my view, we are experiencing sterility, atrophy, desiccation, compounded by the technological flames which are burning and obliterating our creativity. So there's need, as Hayden said, for a renaissance, revival of the arts, revival of the humanities, and other creative works, which will counter the trivializing forces that encircle us. In this response, in this way, Judy's work is a response for revival, for sustenance. Now, I wish to preface my comments by giving you a brief description of Royals Publishing Company. Our main thrust has been the publication of curriculum material in the form of textbooks in response to the academic, social, cultural, and pedagogical needs of students, and in response to the curricular changes in the society. Apart from that, we have also departed from curricular materials in writing books of a general nature, sports, biographical work, fiction, non-fiction, and there's Judy's work now. We have also added to our company an electronic platform, Digital Canopy, CANOPI, which allows writers, enables them to install their work on the platform and disseminate their work worldwide and monetize their work. Now, in response to Judy's request to publish this work, there were certain considerations. Firstly, the inherent social responsibility which a production of the work implies. Secondly, the interest of the work in a particular form which has been different from our previous publications. Here the company was engaging in a narrative of experience, fashioned from as what Keats describes as the holiness of the heart's affection. Now the procedures, therefore, that informed this publication were principles such as the respect for the autonomy and the authenticity of the work, restraint in interfering with the original creation of the work, but at the same time, giving editorial information for the reader's understanding and knowledge. Now, I wish to speak very briefly on the challenges that the author has without usurping the role of the featured speaker. Now, any work of art, any work that has to be produced, involves challenges. One, the diffuse ideas and thoughts and feelings have to be harnessed and assimilated into a cohesive work that will be palatable and readable. That is the challenge that the author has. And I recall the poet, the romantic poet and critic, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who describes this process as using the power of the exemplastic imagination, which assimilates, which synthesizes, which unifies the work into a cohesive whole. That is the challenge that the writer faces. And you are the one who will judge when you are reading the work. Now also, this is the work that I feel that will make connections and encourage meaningful transaction with the reader. It is the kind of work free from the tyranny of current thinking, reflected in the lexicon of standardization and uniformity. It's the kind of work that will appeal to multiple audiences. And I wish to say, finally, that if you are full of talent, if you produce your work, if you're in the creative arts, or if you appreciate the creative arts, then you'll be living and not dying. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Clifford. The use of the English language in the Rensing families has always been very impressive. Dave Ramkisoon is the owner and the CEO of the Electrical Industries Group, which employs over 500 persons locally. Dave is a self-made businessman and an avid student of management and philosophy, and has spent decades creating a business model that attempts to integrate both in the workplace. The Electrical Industries Group has twice been awarded the Republic Bank's Excellence in Business Award, testament to Dave's personal interest in being a model for others to follow. Please join me in welcoming Dave to share his perspective on Judy's book.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor to be in front of this distinguished audience to do some remarks on a very interesting book that my sister-in-law wrote. My headline is Remarks and Personal Thoughts on You Are a Wonder of the Universe. Why the heck are you dangling off the edge? You Are a Wonder of the Universe is, at its heart, a guide to self-awareness and inner exploration. As I read the book, I sensed that the author was not writing as someone constructing a philosophical argument from first principles. Rather, she writes like someone who has experienced a profound spiritual aha moment and is trying to make sense of it. It reminds me of a modern-day Rip Van Winkle awakening, an escape from Plato's cave. One can almost hear the question arising within her. What happened to me? Is it real, or am I fooling myself? Have others experienced what I have experienced? This, I believe, is a common pattern among genuine spiritual seekers. An experience comes first. Then begins the search through philosophy, religion, psychology, and mysticism to find language capable of describing what has been experienced. Her repeated references to moments of profound peace, unity, contentment, and the dissolution of separation suggest that the book is rooted in personal experience first and intellectual inquiry second. Her quotations from Rumi, Sadhguru, Dimelo, Ramana Maharshi, Paramahansa Yogananda, and many other mystics, sages, and spiritual teachers seems less like an attempt to prove a theory and more like a search for confirmation that others have walked this path before her. The ideas themselves are not new. They have echoed throughout the teachings of Socrates, Buddha, Jesus, Rumi, the Upanishads, and many other wisdom traditions for centuries. The originality of this book lies not in discovering a new truth, but in presenting timeless truths in contemporary language that may resonate with readers who might never encounter these teachings elsewhere. If it serves as a bridge that encourages even one person to begin the journey of self-discovery, then it has fulfilled an important purpose. One insight that particularly resonated with me is this: if you silence the mind and experience a peace that transcends all understanding, you discover that the mind is a magnificent tool, but a poor master. Presence cannot be reached by thinking, because thinking belongs to the mind, while presence is the awareness in which the mind appears. The moment you try to grasp it intellectually, it slips away, like trying to hold water in a clenched fist. You open the hands and the water remains. If a student, a young professional, or someone going through a personal crisis reads this book, it may inspire questions they have never seriously asked before. Why am I chasing things that never satisfy? Why do I react the way I do? Who am I beneath my achievements? Why does success sometimes feel empty? Is there another way to experience life? If the book inspires even a small percentage of readers to begin that inquiry, then it has served a valuable purpose. In many ways, it reminds me of my own reflections. What have I achieved? What have I become? Who am I? The first two are common topics of discussions in society. The third is the inquiry that many people never begin. To me, that is the author's central inquiry. Whether one agrees with every conclusion she reaches is less important than whether the book encourages genuine self-examination. In summary, the book suggests that much of human suffering arises from forgetting our deeper nature and seeking fulfillment outside ourselves, while genuine freedom, peace, and happiness emerge as we awaken to the deeper consciousness already present within us. Reading this book also reminded me of a prayer I wrote a few months ago. Drawing inspiration from Paramahansa Yogananda, Edgar Cayce, and Rumi, it serves as a meaningful companion for anyone who experienced such a spiritual awakening and wishes to continue the journey of self-discovery. And it goes like this. O fountain of love, make me feel that my heart is flooded by thine omnipresent love. Awaken within me the consciousness of thy loving presence so that I can fully express my gratitude for life and all its blessings and experience a peace that transcends all understanding. Let the sacred presence instill in me a passion to serve, the power to forgive, and the wisdom to understand my connections with all. I may be a drop in the ocean of being, but I pray that thy presence releases my potential to be an ocean and a drop. In closing, I will simply say this. Many books provide information, few provoke inquiry. The best books leave us with better questions. If You Are a Wonder of the Universe inspires readers to begin asking the most fundamental question, who am I? Then it has achieved something of lasting value. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dave, for that profound insight and perspective on the book. Touched on some very important points there, process of self-actualization in particular. And thank you, Dave, also for sharing your poem with us. I think that poem deserves another round of applause. Susan says she helped him with it. Justice Peter Jamada has a very broad portfolio. He was a very outstanding practitioner, Judy has informed me, who was elevated to the Court of Appeal within a short time, where he is at present sitting. Justice Jamada is also a published author himself of 2 books on democratic reform. Interestingly, he was also the recipient of the degree of Master of Divinity, and perhaps emerging from his training and interest, has been a course presenter with the Foundation for Human Development of TNT for several years. I'm happy to invite Justice Jamada to share his reflections on the book.
Clifford, you see, I took the time to write. Whether I can read what I wrote, I don't know, but I took the time to write. It would be, I think, unfortunate if we thought that this book was somehow for people in crisis or for people who were suffering some sort of trauma. That may be true. That may be true. But this is something that is fundamentally much more. It is intended for everyone. Many will not be able, as the author says, if you get to the end, congratulations, many will not be able to get to the end. Many of you here will never get to the end. Why? To get to the end demands of you something that we have been conditioned to avoid. Genuine and honest introspection. It is much more comfortable to live in our inculturated, conditioned patterns of behavior than to do what Judy is inviting us to do in this work, which is to do inner work. And that is something which few will undertake. For me, it's interesting because clearly Clifford and Judy decided that the focus should be, if I'm to look at the composition, that you are a wonder of the universe. But what struck me most about the presentation was something else. Why the heck are you dangling off the edge? And I actually think that's the hook. And I think that's the entry point. Because what Judy is trying to do for us is to make us aware that we're all dangling off the edge. And before you can get to how wonderful you are, you have to recognize that you're dangling off the edge. I think I was told I had 20 minutes, so that's a long time. And let's see how it goes. Where do I begin? I think I should begin with Judy, of course. Everything is possible starting right now. You are an awesome wonder of the universe. No other person on this planet is quite like you, and there has never been another like you. Your name is love. You are an extraordinary, awesome, and fabulous, one of a kind. To get there, you have to reach page 319. And just for full disclosure, I happen to be in a profession where these kinds of things are considered important. There are 320 pages in the book. So that's why I said, you're not going to really discover that you're the wonder of the universe until you reach page 319. You have to do some work to get there. The insights and transformation that Judy shares have their most immediate origins in August 2022. I say immediate because there were prior experiences. When, in her words, the COVID-19 virus paid me an unwelcome visit. COVID-19 has meant many things to many people, but for Judy, let me share what she explains. On the first day, I found myself feeling insufferably ill. But on the second morning, I experienced a sudden staggering change. I awoke to what I was certain felt like a light tap on my shoulder. As I opened my eyes, I was immediately aware that not only was I feeling perfectly well, as if the illness had never happened, but conscious of a tremendous lightness and peace. It was an extraordinary sensation of absolute blissful ease and calm. Beyond this, there was a feeling of complete union and immersion with everything around me, as if all sense of separateness from the world and everything and everyone had dissolved into nothingness. Many of us have had peak experiences in our lives. And in the moment, we hold on to them and we treasure them and we wonder about them. But what did Judy do differently? Whether she was compelled or she chose, I suspect a mixture of both, she embarked on an exploration of what this could mean for her. She documents a journey which anyone who embarks on this goes through. Deaths, burials, strippings, loss, desolation, wilderness. But documents, in her experience at least, that it was all worth it. And that is the inspiration that I think has compelled her desire to share, to say, how do I keep this to myself? How do I maybe help others experience what I have experienced and come to know what I now know? As we have heard, her fundamental question is who, but not just who am I, what am I? The publication has two parts to it. I'll share this with you because I hope that it helps you understand both Judy as I reflect on her work, and also helps you understand what you may make of it. The first part of the book, and again, just for your information, up to chapter, let me get it right. Judy, I think it's up to page 242. So the book is divided into two parts. And the first part is 242 pages. And it's about our pathology. This is a therapeutic analysis of the human condition. It very carefully, and in my own lived experience, relatively accurately chronicles why we live lives that are generally very unhappy. Why, in spite of all of our status and positions and money and power, at the core, we are, to use her language, damn unhappy. That's another thing about the book. I love it. It's not pretentious. It's honest. She says it, no doubt, as she sees it. Doesn't attempt to dress it up. Calls it for what it is. For her, the answer to why we suffer and why we are unhappy is simply because, as her experience documented, we are separate from ourselves, from the divine, and from each other. And the path back for her is a path that she chronicles, worked for her and works for her, which heals the woundedness of those separations and moved her more into unity with herself, her experience of the divine creator, however you choose to describe it, and in this work, I think, with each other and all others. Chapters 13, 14, 15, and 16 explore in turn what she calls the four devilish rascals. Ego, the toughest nut to crack. Approval, the most dire addiction. The bottomless pit of desire. And the challenge of habit. And if any one of us can claim that we are not egotistical or egoic, that desires of all forms and fashion are not now addictions for us, not least of which the addiction to our phones. You know, when you scroll, how many of you now just scroll and scroll? You know what's the most popular movement these days? What's it? Yeah? We're in bed at night. And we just going and going and going and going and going. And anything that pops up, we're looking at and we're reading. And everybody's laughing because it's true. But that is an addiction. Understand that. It is a mindless preoccupation. And Judy would say, to distract us from who we truly are. So for all of you who at nights on your phone and you're doing the do, Judy is saying, wake up, wake up. I know you want to go to sleep, but she is saying, wake up. The pathology is we have and live out of a diseased human condition. But she doesn't leave us there. Having forced us to look into the mirror and see ourselves, who and what we are, she offers some encouragement. at page 173. You've got to get to page 173 to get the encouragement. I was asked to read it and do the reflections. That's what's in the book, not making it up. Come on, she says. We're swimming to the surface now at page 173. One kick at a time. So there's encouragement. But you've got to get to page 173, right? But what's the point? And this is very important, because when you're doing the 173 pages, you may say, no, this is not for me. But understand what she is saying. You were always swimming to the surface from page 1. You were one kick at a time. But now that you reach page 173, you can begin to see the glimmer. In an earlier incarnation, I did scuba diving. And I remember you had to do different depths. You start shallow, and then you go to 50 meters, and so on. And the deeper you go and you look up, it looks far away. It looks quite far away. And as you approach the surface and you see the light on the surface of the water, I learned this I started this in Barbados, you really feel a sense of, okay, I am arriving. And so Judy encourages us. We're on the way, one step at a time. Her key, consistent with what I have said, her key is awareness. But now she shifts us into something more. Up to now, it was become awareness, become aware of all of our diseases. And there are many. She tells you all about them. But also now become aware of your true self. And the two sides of that coin of what it means to be human. See, as she says, see, be and experience the being behind the familiar person or personality that you call you. And in her therapeutic model, if we can bring into awareness all of our dysfunction, we can heal through simply being aware, welcoming, releasing, and then affirming the truth of who we are. I remember many, many years ago going to a place in Claxton Bay, run by a person called Sri Vasudeva. Some of you may or may not know him or may know of him. He had a little chant that he taught. I am not this perishable body. I am not the restless mind. I am not the craven ego. I am the Atman, so divine. That's what Judy is sharing. We think we are the body. We think we are the mind. We think we are all our emotions. We think we are our personalities and the roles. You know, you've ever had a new car? Nobody's had a new car? Yes. It ever got scratched? You feel as if you got scratched. New pair of shoes, new something. You have so identified with the object that you think you are the object. What she's saying was, hold on, that's not who you are. That's not who you are. That's not what you are. You are something much, much more. She says, affirm the truth. I am not body, mind, thoughts, emotions, or personality. And I quote, I am pure and perfect consciousness. I am pure awareness. Just relax, let go, and let God, she says. And so, let me sort of close by sharing what I think is very much what Judy invites us into. she invites us into a recognition of what she calls the law of attraction, and some of you may have heard that. As we have heard, there's nothing sort of new about this, but the way it's put together is compelling. And she says all of our thoughts carry energy, and each thought we generate sets off a specific frequency or vibrational energy which attracts the same back to us in kind. They produce emotions, and our thoughts and emotions in turn are energy activities that vibrate all day at frequencies that align with and draw corresponding energetic experiences right back to us. So what's the thesis? The thesis is this: you are attracting into your life who and what you are. So if you find you're miserable, if you find stuff isn't working, if you find there is, you're always meeting those people who you find obnoxious, you know what she's saying? What is she saying? Look into the mirror, because guess what? Like attracts like. Thank God I have a beautiful, peaceful, joyful, happy wife. She's never going to forgive me for saying that. That is actually being egotistical. I'm trying to say I am all those things, so I'm attracting that. It's a joke. But the point, I'm just trying to bring a bit of levity. The point is, this is not for the faint-hearted. And so let me end with saying to Judy, congratulations. I think this is a work of courage. I think it takes courage to take a very personal, intimate experience and take the risk of saying, this is what I experienced to the world. And she's not hiding anything. She shares all of it. That takes courage. Can we give her a round of applause? I think it takes generosity. It takes generosity to share, to say, even if there are those who are going to read this and think A, B, or C of me, never mind that. I have received a gift. And that's how she ends. Her very last line is, open your gift and be free. Judy, thank you for this gift. Thank you for the courage. Thank you for the generosity. And may those who read it engage the work that you commend. And for those who do not read it, may they fall soon and get into a crisis so that they may read it. Can we all give her a round of applause?
Thank you. Thank you, Justice Jamada, for your reflections, for your very clinical dissection of the book. Not just chapter by chapter, but page by page in some cases. Thank you very much. I owe you an apology. I misread one of the lines here. I'm just going to reintroduce. That Justice Jamada was elevated to the Court of Appeal within a very short time and then transitioned to the Caribbean Court of Justice, where he's at present sitting. My apologies. I thought I should make that correction, lest I find myself before any of you present for any of my many transgressions in the future, that I may be forgiven from now. Thanks again. Please join me in welcoming Juzan. Please welcome me in welcoming Juzan and her work in television. She wears several hats. She has been a diligent supporter of local talent and creating opportunities for artists and creatives across the Caribbean. I want to invite Juzan to share a few thoughts on the book.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Judy for asking me to say a few words. Maybe she will recollect how it was a sort of convoluted way in getting here, because I'm neither a lawyer or in the profession. And And also, I don't have the long-standing accolade of being a friend from a long time. I came through Clifford Narayan Singh, who is a dear friend and, as you know, is the publisher of this book. And we were introduced a few years ago, and we've had a journey since. So it's a tough act to come after Justice Peter Jamadar. And I'm known for really speaking off the cuff because I always talk from my heart, apart from when I have to use facts, which is very important in broadcast and journalism and so. But I was having a conversation with Judy, and Judy said to me, "Oh, Josanne, that's what you should say." We were going a bit back and forth, and I said, "Well, I don't remember what I said now because we didn't record it. We were just having a conversation about the book and the journey." And so Judy, it's tough to come after Peter, and I feel almost, and full disclosure here, as you all will see in the profession, we had no collusion, absolutely none. I did not see his notes, and he is not seeing mine that I've just made to sort of keep myself on track. So let me start with you, Judy. I am sure it takes a lot. I'm not an author, but I have my own experience of writing and chronicling stories and so in the audiovisual world. So it must take a lot for those of you who are authors, especially of law books. It takes something else entirely to write a law book, and underneath case law and citations and so in the profession that you're in. And I'm sure that she's done both. She has put, as Peter has said, and as I said before, no collusion, no collaboration. She's put her professional reputation here on one page and in her private reckoning in another part of the book. In this room, which is full of people who spend their lives, many of you, most of you, arguing precedents, she has done something braver, I believe, than argue a point. She has attempted to tell her truth about becoming who she is. And I don't know, being a bit of a bush lawyer myself, especially with AI now, because I'm actually quite proud of a document that I did working with Claude. This must not be a small thing for a lawyer to do, because most of you in the profession are trained to keep your robes on, and I think that sort of interpolating with Judy on this journey, she had to take her robes off, essentially, to write this book. And not to just do that, but to do it in public by putting it in the written form and putting a book out. So I think, Judy, as Peter has said, it's very brave, and thank you for that. Again, as Peter said, her journey, as she tells it, is inward. It is about the self-discovered. And it is at this point where beyond perspectives, which is what, or other perspectives is what she put on the program, that maybe this might be my little point of departure. Oops. So what happens after that? We read the book, or we become engaged, and we have nice exchanges. Once we have looked inward, what really, and this is now me really waxing warm into my realm of comfort. Today is CARICOM Day, 53 years as a region with the founding fathers of CARICOM. We may think of the 250th anniversary of the big United States of America, and we probably just par for the course, not contemplate what the founding fathers of CARICOM may have been thinking on that day, July 4th, 53 years ago, and where we are today. So I'm now moving into my area a little more, because inward, outward. Because I think we can all agree, political, religious, social standing, or status aside, we can all agree that we are at a really serious inflection point, not just in Trinidad and Tobago and in the Caribbean, but in the world. Everything is happening in real time. We've watched a war, we've watched bombs, we've watched attempts to annihilate thousands of years of history in civilization. We watched the genocide in Palestine, and it's almost as though we've become anesthetized to it. We've become anesthetized. It's just the latest news. Of course, right now we have World Cup, and we could feel really great that so many African countries have been playing and giving those European teams a good run for their money, Cabo Verde last night in particular. So we could give a round of applause for that. But the truth is, me and my little bush lawyer, little Sando girl, always focused on what we can do to improve. Because we improve ourselves, but if we improve ourselves, then at what point is that just simply me looking after me and me looking after my own? Where is our connection to our humanity? The planet is heating up. I don't care who says what, that's not the case. The planet is heating up. We don't know where these earthquakes and typhoons and floods and so are coming from, but the planet is heating up. And we're being asked to do things after those who were responsible for it are saying that it is now our responsibility. So how do I make the link with what Judy's book is and where we are? We do the work on ourselves. We do the work with our families and those that we can impact in our communities, in our churches, in our schools, in our law practices, in our chambers, in our courts. But it must be connected to something that is bigger than ourselves. That's my takeaway, Judy, in a sense. So, small countries like ours, people might say, well, what can we do? Here in Trinidad and Tobago and across the Caribbean that we call home, we would be like Stevie Wonder, really blind, to not recognize and to not contemplate and to consider that inequality in our countries, in our communities, even in our families, hardens into something closer to permanence. And so we are reaping, as they say, that bread that devil needs. We have communities without opportunity. We have young people who really don't have a shot. Not because they don't have the ability, just simply where they're born, the families they come from, the things that they have to face, they don't have a shot. Justice, because I'm here quite humble, sitting in a room of largely people in jurisprudence. Justice that too often depends on who you know or what you can afford rather than what is right. These are not abstractions. And I'm imagining that Judy sitting during COVID-19, and when she put the book down, and then sometimes she read her brother column, Wayne Kublal Singh, who really gets all of us on the edge, that she must be thinking, I'm assuming that she's pondering some of these things as well. So these are some of the uncomfortable, inconvenient truths and facts on the ground. And so a perspective beyond this would be my question. And you might say, well, who are you to ask this? In a room full of people largely trained in the law, what is introspection if it just stops at the self? Judy's book asks us to look inward. I, Josanne Leonard, daughter of San Fernando, navel string buried in the Caribbean, an unrepentant regionalist, I ask us now to begin to look inward, yes, and then look up and look around. Because personal growth that ends at personal comfort is really not growth. And we have excelled in it in this country and in this region. Self-discovery only means something if it produces a self that actually shows up for something that is bigger than ourselves. And for you, if I may be so bold, because I know the Chief Justice is here, and of course our CCJ judge and others, lawyers and others here, you are not ordinary bystanders to this work. And I'm sure that that plays in Judy's mind as she does her work in the realm of jurisprudence. But this is my personal, taking my cue from you, Judy, that as officers of the court, people who draft the contracts, that decide who gets paid or who gets left waiting, who writes the wills that pass the wealth forward or fails to, who sit on boards and all manner of legal committees, who advise ministers and attorneys general. You are, whether you ask for it or not, among the architects of whether this country's and this region's next 50 looks like justice or looks like more of the same. And so, as just one who also has to contend with dealing with the demons of growth and facing challenges and family and community duty, I'm hoping that this book will resonate with folks here in a way in which the call to action is simple. I mean, I'm probably sounding a bit preachy, but I don't mean to be seriously. But maybe in reading the book and reflecting, we will take some of that rigor that you've sought to inspire to bring more justice, to bring more humanity, to bring more peace and opportunity for not just those who are close to us, but those whose lives we can impact. She didn't really want me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I know there's a table full there of books, and I'm sure that every single person here can buy not just one, but maybe buy one or two and gift it to some young person, gift it to a school, gift it to a community, whatever it is. I'm sure that that can be done. So in conclusion, Judy, thank you for asking me to participate. She went looking for herself and found and wrote her book. And I'm coming up the rear asking each of us to go looking for ourselves and find a neighbor, find a cause, find the piece of someone's life or something that is crumbling in this beautiful world that is ours to repair. This is a real journey beyond perspectives and nice words and quotations from Rumi and Wayne Dyer and all the yogis. Congratulations, Judy. Thank you for starting the conversation, and I hope that it does not end when we leave this room tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josanne. Thank you in particular for connecting the dots from the internal growth process to our humanity outside of ourselves and our responsibilities in society. Thank you. I mentioned that Josanne was or is involved in the Powerful Ladies of Trinidad and Tobago. I'll just give you a little aside. Some years ago, I was friends with many of the people in the plot organization, and we used to lime a lot. I used to go to all of the parties and support where I can. And one weekend, they came to my house in Grand Couva. We had a little bit of a lime to relax, and some of them overnighted and so on. And after spending the night out and liming and having some drinks, Josanne was not there. But I was anointed a honorary member of the Powerful Ladies of Trinidad and Tobago. So, not something that many men in this room can say, but we do have some stuff in common. Before we hear from the author herself, a little anecdote, because I described at the beginning the Renaissance period as a rebirth. Man then looking at themselves in a very different way to become multifaceted and do all that they can. A lot of the conversation this evening has sort of bordered around some of that idea. And Judy, as a Renaissance woman, has always found the need to escape, apparently. As a child, growing up on the hill in Claxton Bay, out of the 8 kids, she's the only one that would run away very often from home. She would run away at ages 7, 8, 9, 10, and run through the tracks at the back of the house and go to our grandparents' house, which was a cool 5-minute run away. And never was sure what the intention was. My grandmother did have a shop where there was caramel and biscuits and so on. There was salt prunes that were free. But now, in reflection, I can tell that she always had the need to escape, to run to something different and to find herself in a different space. So, without further ado, I'm going to ask the author herself, Judy Kublal-Singh-Matthews, to join us and speak.
Good evening, everyone. You know, I think if we never ever agree on anything else in this room, I think we have to acknowledge we had some very powerful, excellent speakers here today, right? Round of applause. And Justice Jamada, I don't blame him for quoting, talking about pages there, because I have to tell you, I was almost apologetic in handing over this book, a whole 332 pages of it, to Justice Jamada at the very last moment, knowing that he had, of course, a very busy schedule. And, you know, he took on this challenge to review this book. No questions asked showed up here. And, you know, I just want to say I'm very heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to all of our speakers. Of course, Dave and Josanne, excellent speakers. So, oh boy, I feel like, I know I'm moving my head, right? I have a habit of making notes and then I just go on a this course of my own. I think you've heard about the book. I think, you know, I have no interest in having an audience fall asleep on me. We have a little wine and some mingling to do after. So I thought I'd just tell you a little bit of the journey of the book, the story of the book, as opposed to what's, you know, the content itself. So people ask me, you know, how did you come to write this book? I've come across persons, not many, but some of them who've said to me, you know, I would love to be a published author at some point in my life. I have this dream, ambition to write a book. Let me just tell you all up front, I never, ever, in case you have any doubt, I never, ever thought that there was anything that was even remotely interesting or unique or intriguing about any of my life experiences that would warrant putting any part of it on 332 pages of a book, far less being so bold-faced to come and ask you all to read it, right? So, you know, articles for newspapers like 900 words long. And it's as long as I wanted to venture, really. And the thought of writing a book just felt terribly onerous and cumbersome. I had no inclination whatsoever to do it. So this book was not born out of any ambition to write. I went through a bit of mishaps, you know, and I see that speakers have spoken about being brave to open up. And as I've said in the book, you know, I had to struggle with that a little bit. The thing is, how can I ask you to approach your lives from a place of resolute truth if I am not prepared to be open about my life, right? And as I've said in the book, you know, when you become at ease with who you are, I'm not saying I'm all there, you know, but when you become more at ease with who you are, speaking truth feels like an easy breezy walk in the park. Because when we drop our prideful illusions, and we all have them, we realize that there are not many differences between us as we once imagined, right? And when we are open about our successes, and we hide our mistakes, we hide our failings, and we all have them. How does that help me? And worse yet, how does that help you? And we've really just falsified our records for the sake of some illusion that we seek to convey to other people about our lives. So, that's just a response in terms of why I was brave enough to open up about some aspects of my life which were not so appealing. So I did have a few mishaps in the book, and I tell the story of falling into this bit of trough of despair. I was undergoing what I think is perhaps a very human condition, you know. At some point, I think all of us at some point stop and we ask ourselves silently, if not aloud, what is the purpose of all of this? Or the question may be, is there all there is to it? Not out of ingratitude, but from an ache you can't quite name. You know, on the surface, the household may be intact, our careers are steady, calendars busy, or maybe none of those things. But beneath the surface, there's a quiet ache, a longing, a yearning, a void. It's something that we can't quite put a finger on. I'm sure all of us have experienced that. And it's a discomfort that doesn't go away with acquisitions or achievement or applause. Carl Jung called that sensation the whispers of the unlived life, the life we've buried beneath the one we've constructed to survive. The thing is, this restlessness, it isn't a void really, this longing, whatever you wish to call it, it's really a critical compass. It's a wake-up call. It's a call for something that's more radiant, more honest. In my case, I led myself on a path. All of my wounds were self-inflicted, when I think about it. Nobody did a single thing to me. But I led myself on a path where I have to say that I had to hit rock bottom in one area of my life. I'm always thankful I didn't sacrifice relationships, but I did hit rock bottom in an area and found myself having to climb out of a cavernously and painful hole. Not a pleasant place to be, but it can often be, you know, rock bottom can be a moment of clarity for you, right? And but there was another experience I described in the book, and it was a wonderful one. It is a bit that Justice Jamda shared. It's what we call maybe an aha moment, an epiphany moment. And I've explained that in the book, you know. But right then and there, this curiosity was, you know, rose within me. I wanted to understand more. And I started to delving. I started investing in all the teachings of all the yogis and the mystics and the gurus of the East. I was already familiar with the teachings of Christ. I was brought up in the church. And when you look at all these teachings, there's a very common thread that runs through all of these teachings. And teachings of Buddha and, of course, of the Western teachers who actually have drawn very heavily on the teachings of the East, the mystics and the yogis and so on. And a paradigm shift, I think, occurred in me. That really enormously changed the way I view, the way I perceive, the way I experience my life. And this is what the book really encourages you to do. So the story of writing the book, I did start wondering, okay, with my newly happy, contented, altered self, what's the purpose of it all? And my first thought was, I really wanted a platform to speak to people. I wanted to help people. I wanted to help children. Many times I drive around and look at people's faces, you know, and I saw, you know, boredom, maybe fatigue, very little zeal or zest for life. And I would wonder, you know, what could I do to help my fellow sufferers out there? So I did want a platform to help, and I started thinking, well, I'm an attorney. People know me as an artist of sorts. Who's going to want to listen to anything I have to say, right? So I decided, my husband urged me to write, actually. Strongly urged me to write. In retrospect, I think it was strategic. I think he was just trying to get me to just zip it up a little bit and just engage me in something and leave him alone. Stop following him around so much. So I very enthusiastically started writing. I'm an early riser. I'd get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, say my prayer, have some coffee, and I'd write for like 3 or 4 hours. And late at nights, I was writing. And when you read this book, you might be very surprised to know that I wrote this book in about 3 months. Cover to cover. In fact, it was a longer version of this book. Most people who are writing a book would do an outline of the book. They have chapters, they have subtitles, none of that. I wrote the book, and then I set about putting it into chapters and subtitles. But the book has pretty much kept its original format and its flow. Of course, I went back and I refined language and I fixed and I improved, right? But pretty much what it was originally. Why I was so enthusiastic, I'll leave that to you when you read the book. So the thing about it is that many people who I heard talk about writing the books and the experience told me it was quite torturous. You know, gaffes upon gaffes. They talk about having burnout, revisions upon revisions, writer's block, edits upon edits. But for this reluctant writer, the experience of writing this book was an entirely enjoyable one. It may sound strange, but it was enjoyable. Interestingly, perhaps weirdly so, my enthusiasm seldom waned during the process of writing this book. Where does this unfledged enthusiasm come from? As I say, I'll leave that to you to decipher. And then came the publishing aspect. You know, in the US, it's a very difficult process. You know, you have to have a literary agent, and they require book proposals. It's like writing a book within a book. It's really a lot involved. I didn't have the time, the inclination, the patience for it. And I essentially shelved this book for about 2 years. At the time, I thought to myself, if this is something meaningful that needs to get out there, I'm going to surrender this book to the universe. And if it's something that needs to be out there, you send me a publisher. So during those 2 years, if I were to be honest with you, I was completely uninvested. I really did surrender the outcome. And interestingly, you know, I'm on YouTube a lot, and I would just come across these things, just not looking for it. And there was an example, for instance, of I came across Lucy Maud Montgomery. You most of you know her as the author of Anne of Green Gables, right? Beloved childhood classic. I loved Anne of Green Gables as a child. And she actually could not get a publisher. For 6 years, she had shelved that book and then dusted it off after some time. And many years later, she got a small publishing company to publish that book, internationally known book. Same for people like Malcolm Gladwell and, you know, The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell, The Tipping Point, yes. And in retrospect, I see these things as having been God winks, you know, the universe showing me that it's not as the book is not going to be published, it's just you're in a waiting period. And during this period of waiting, something was happening in me. I came to see that in some areas I was still very much a blueprint or a repository of many of the maladies that the book preaches against. What these torts, T-O-R-T-S, for the jurists on the right, and shortcomings are, especially, I will not refrain from them, especially in the company of our judges here. But I have evolved with the book, especially during this waiting period, and I think I'm a better person for having waited. You see, there's a divine intelligence, right, that gets the importance of waiting and perfect timing. I think if we look at what the world is undergoing now, the book is deeply relevant, and our speakers have thankfully picked up on that, right? It's perhaps about our biggest human dilemma, the quest for meaning, purpose, ultimately happiness in the world. When you think about it, that's foundational. It's integral, it's intrinsic to just about everything we do, right? It's why we receive an education. It's why we embark on careers, why we marry, why we trade in our spouse of 30 years for a newer model. We see it in the courts, right? Why we have children, and even why we retire, right? At the end of this, we think where we want to relax and enjoy our lives, right? And this is why a life that feels meaningless or without purpose or miserable or unhappy is at the heart of much of the dysfunction, the neurosis, the anxieties, the depression, and the often unhappy, aberrant behaviors, sometimes perverse behaviors of people around us. So, actually, this just came to mind. A man runs into a park on a weekend and guns down parents, not just in the presence of their small child, but in the presence of other small children playing there, bystanders, people who other parents would have been there, creating a ripple effect of trauma throughout an entire community, and indeed throughout the entire country, right? that person is not acting from a place of well-being, right? It is a truth. Hurting people will hurt other people. And oftentimes, the more grievous the hurt, the anger, the angst, whatever it is they're dealing with, the more grievous the actions of people are likely to be. And oftentimes, the people who need love the most are the ones who will make it the most difficult for you to love them by their self-same actions. Because nobody looking at that scenario is going to feel any feeling of pleasantness or exhilaration within, right? I mean, unless we're walking utter darkness ourselves, right? We talk about, if you look at social media, all the things we could do to this guy and noose around his neck and so on. So someone said this to me when they read the book. Say, you said the fog is thick right now. I don't think I said that in the book. Say, you said fog is thick. The world is noisy. People are afraid. It may not be visible on the outside, but people are walking in darkness. People are walking in confusion. And I think one element of this book really is, just as Jamada pointed out, you know, we were born into this world that is, unfortunately for all of us, a massively confused form with substance. We've built a shrine to the ego, the human ego, and we've forgotten the altar of the soul. But from the moment we speak truth to darkness, I'm waxing a little poetic, from the moment we speak love to it, you become a lighthouse in the fog. And this is what this book, I think, in some way attempts to do. We're wonders of the universe. Because the creator of this universe, this divine essence, this intelligence that we call God, has placed a fragment of itself within all of us. We are all sparks of the divine. The same mind that produces misery and dysfunction is capable of producing wonderful things in the world. We are capable of co-creating with the universe to create beautiful things. We are so much more powerful beings than we ever realized we were. But nobody taught us anything about this. So while we were busy getting an education, finding our dream partner, having children, all the things we were told, you know, were things to do. And of course, there's no criticism of any of that, of course. It's all part and parcel of, you know, what our life on this earth is about. We're pretty much left out in the cold in all of this. So I asked the question in the book, what would happen if children started out learning the most significant thing? This matter of what is the nature of our very existence on this planet. It's always been treated as some highly esoteric philosophical thing, some complex something. But what is more elemental to our existence than knowing our true selves? Isn't this something that we should value as much as we value learning to read, to write, to walk, to speak? You know, if your child couldn't speak at the age of 6, we would be very concerned, right? So the book is also questioning all of that. It goes into a lot of something, the education system as well has become hugely information-based. We are using essentially one aspect or one dimension of our intelligence, the intellect. The intellect functions exclusively the backing of the memory. If I were to lose my memory tomorrow, I would have no memory of anything I learned in the legal profession. But there are far broader dimensions to intelligence that does not include the intellect. And this is what our children are facing. And there's a lovely quote in the book, I think it's Einstein. If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will go through its life believing it's stupid, it's dumb. So I don't want to go into too much. Many of you don't know I taught for a few years in the secondary school system, so I do have a little school momish kind of preachy, teachy thing about me, you know. I could very easily go in that direction, so I'm holding myself back right now. Yeah, so the proof of the pudding is always in the eating. You know, you read the book, you know, and just as Jamada said, you reach page 332, you're a wonder of the universe. I said it. You're really a wonder of the universe if you can make it that far. But having said that, the language of the book is very, very simple. I've taken things that may seem like complex ideas, and they're really simplified. I think anyone can read this book. It's not for children, but certainly for older children. And I am happy to see it. I think there's a movement towards emotional intelligence training in our schools. And I think this book placed it in the right hands, in the hands of the right people, can make a tremendous difference. I think it's a book that can help parents, teachers, enormously. Okay, so that's about it on the book. I just want to thank a few people here. Of course, again, I say I make notes, and then I didn't really make my notes of Mr. Muhammad sitting there very quietly and observing everything. Thank you. You know, when I started planning this book launch just about a month ago, and I always think I can multitask. But we're getting older, right? So I just called Mr. Muhammad one day, and he started putting me in touch with everyone. No, you should have this one to tell you. You should do this, and have Justice Jamada come. And he gave me all these wonderful ideas. And through this, through all my angst, with all my little problems and stuff, I was talking to Mr. Muhammad, and always a willing ear, very kind, very, very kind, noble gentleman. I don't think my family could even handle me sometimes. Mr. Muhammad did. So thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Maureen Balde, was she here? Maureen did a little bit of revision of the book with me. Yeah, she told me a little bit what a sensitivity reader is, and I said I apologize for ignoring you, Maureen. I didn't even go in that direction, but thank you very much for your input. I think the family mostly, I have to say, I know my brother doesn't expect any acknowledgement. Wayne Barry Kublal Singh. I don't know who's this Wayne guy. We grew up calling him Barry. Wayne, incidentally, has over 35 books on Amazon. I'm not advertising for him, but nobody knows the books are there. I write one book, and I'm here at a book launch, right? But that's a story for another time. I could write a book on that one. But very early on, when I'd written this book, I sent an email to Wayne about a publisher, and the book went in error with the email. And I sat down for a while flabbergasted. I thought, oh my God, I did not want to share this book with anyone, especially a family member at this point. But then he had it already, so I asked him to read it. And if you know Wayne, he will not change one text for you, one word of your text. But he gave me some pointers, very valuable pointers. About 10 pointers, maybe a little more of this, a little less of that. And I applied them. And it really did make a difference. It did improve the book. And then the little designer and media artist, when it came to doing the book cover, boy, did I do designs. I bothered, I harassed just about a few of you in this room about it. And when the cover was due, I called him up and I said, I have to agree on, I have to make a decision on the cover. And he said, I'm going to send you something. Take it or leave it. And he sent me the cover for this book. In no time, bam, bam, cover came, and he did the back for the book, most of it, just wrote it very, very quickly. And that was, most wonderful contribution, because nothing I had designed was really close to what I had here. So thank you, Wayne Barry Kublal Singh, who's not even looking at me. Mommy, mommy, mommy. Where's mommy? Right. As we get older, some of you have your parents here, maybe both if you're lucky, you have one, or maybe your parents have passed on. You know how affectionate we feel, with our parents, Mommy, I'm just really grateful to have you here with us. For just being a mother, this lady had 8 children, and 8 of her children, 7 of her children are pretty wacky. Yeah, and my mother did everything for children back in those days. We didn't have a lot. Mommy cut our hair. She made our uniforms. She helped me. She did all the cooking, the cleaning, the everything. Like many mothers, but with very little resources. For carnival, all of us had carnival costumes. Didn't mind. All of us had a carnival costume with red lipstick on our cheeks, and we're going to play mass. The same, yes, the same. We had a uniform. She made the same thing. I remember the cream pants and the red top, yes. So, and for Diwali, she's making parasad, everything. We're missing out on anything. The parasad was so hard, we would roll it up and pelt the dog outside, or somebody was pelting the dog outside the parasad. I remember that one. So, when Mommy thank you for just being a mommy and for messing up your children just enough so we could have interesting stories to tell and write books. You know, they say that about 90-something%, I don't know how they assess dysfunction, but they say about 90-something% of families are dysfunctional. So all of a sudden, we're not that special, right? I thought of my father today. I missed him. He would have loved to work this room. He would have loved to chat with our judges and all the ladies in the room. He had quite, you know, yeah. I missed him today. And a part of the book, my journey in the book, I told about, you know, I think I was a bit traumatized about my father's passing, and that perhaps led me on a particular path. So thanks to my papa, wherever he is, and my husband told me don't thank him. He says, Howard LaRue, his mother named him after Lash LaRue, a cowboy from South Carolina. He doesn't sling a gun, but he does have some cowboyish ways, huh? So he told me don't thank him at all. He already knows he's the apple of my eye, that I could not live without him. But, you know, we think our spouses would support us, but, you know, look around us. That's not always the case, right? So my husband has been very supportive of his wife and all her shenanigans, and very sure and steady presence in my life, but I will not thank him for any of it. And last but not least, you know, all of you here. I am very heartened at the response to this launch, and you know, all of you here, your presence means a lot. You know, I don't see this book really as a victory for me. I think this book is a victory for all of us. There's hardly a person in this room that has not impacted my life in some form or manner. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, we enjoy your evening. We have some mingling to do. Somebody's saying something to me? Yes, enjoy your evening, and thank you for coming here.
Thank you very much, Judy. I think that deserves another round of applause. Some writers write to be famous. Some writers write to find expression to their ideas. Some writers write to share who they are with others. After listening to everyone today, I think it is clear what Judy's honest intention towards this book was and is. She has started her first book by tackling a genre of writing which is very, in my view, uncommon for Caribbean writers. We don't have many people within the Caribbean tackling this particular genre of writing. Great writers, of course, within the Caribbean, but starting a career as an author with this genre is quite impressive. Judy's writing beyond the words and paragraphs is an expression of her own self-actualization, which is, at this point, clear. For when comes the truth of her intention? To share who she is with others so that they may grow too. On behalf of the author, Judy Kublal Singh Matthews, and Royals Publishing Company, Clifford, and team, I wish to again thank each of you for being here. Please stay on, have a beverage or two. There's a meal prepared for you. Continue to enjoy the rest of the evening. Continue to be a wonder of the universe, and may we all dangle a little bit differently from now on. Derek Smith, the lounge owner here, has invited us to stay on until. I understand he's sponsoring some drinks as well, Derek. It has been my pleasure sharing the evening with you. Thank you again. Let's all mingle, greet, have something to eat and drink, and have some fun. Thanks again.